5 o'clock, we will call to order the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County meeting. Looks like we have a quorum. I think we have Lynn on Zoom. Doesn't look like Rob has made it yet, or may not. First, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move. Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll move to a special recognition. Robin, tell us about our safety awards.
I will do that. WSACC received 3 gold awards from the North Carolina Department of Labor in recognition of our outstanding safety and health efforts in the following facilities: the administrative office, Lake Don T. Howe and Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant. And NCDOL recognizes staff for their continued ability, and let me just start that over again. The NCDOL recognizes WSACC staff for their ability in their safety program. We have, of course, we were a STAR certified site and we're 18,001 certified. So these recognitions are done every year based on our workers' compensation numbers and our safety records. So if you have a lost time injury, you of course don't qualify, but it's based on hours and based on injury level. The Rocky River wastewater treatment plant actually had 1 lost time injury in 2023. It was an unavoidable accident, resulted in 1 day of lost time. A belt came apart on a piece of equipment and the belt flew everywhere. And the staff thought they were way far enough from the piece of equipment to avoid that. And unfortunately, one piece, our electrical guy ducked, and when he did, 1 piece of it caught him right there, cut his head. So doctor didn't want him up and about for 24 hours. So anyway, but we were pleased to get these awards and recognized at the luncheon here in Cabarrus County. Chad was kind enough to go get those awards for us because several of us were out doing other things. This is the 15th consecutive year for the administrative office, Lake Don T. Howe and the Muddy Creek wastewater treatment plant. We're pretty proud of these records and our safety record overall. So Mike has already been kind enough to take a picture, but this is what they look like, and we actually present them out in our lobby so everybody can see them. Thank you.
Great job. Okay, we have some unfinished business. Approval of the minutes from April 18th. Your motion to approve.
So move, Mr. Chair. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, we have some new business. Wendy.
As we discussed in previous meeting, we received $42,125,000 in ARPA funds from the state. We thought we're going to use all this money for the Lower Cottle Creek Phase 1 and Phase 2, and we were fortunate enough for that to come under budget. So the state has also approved for us to use a little over $7 million of this for Back Creek Interceptor improvements. So this budget amendment decreases the amount that Charlotte Water will pay and increases the grant revenue line item. I think expenditures already budgeted.
What did you say the total amount was that we got for ARPA?
The total amount is $42,125,000. Yeah.
Is this the project that we requested Charlotte Water delay?
No, this was the one Charlotte Water decided to not participate in when capacity got tighter, or to delay the project, not.
Right, delay the project, that's what I
Delay the
meant.
project at Charlotte Water's request. At that time, our records were showing we were okay. This master plan, pretty much the update and modeling that went into that showed with the growth taking place in Harrisburg that we're getting really close. So it's a good opportunity. I've discussed with Charlotte Water, and they've agreed that we can do an amendment to the contract that if they decide at one point to extend to the county line, the service and that they would pay for their portion of this back to us at that time. So we should be covered there. That if we need this just for Cabarrus County, but we're going the size we're going because of the potential for Charlotte Water. So when the day comes and they want to go to the county line, then they will reimburse us their portion.
questions for Wendy or Chad? All right, need a motion to approve this budget amendment.
Motion to approve the budget amendment.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, our audit.
So, the local government commission requires the board to approve our audit contract each year, so this is the contract for fiscal year. For them to audit fiscal year 24. It did go up about $10,000, and that's because of the ARPA funds, and they'll be required to do a single audit for the first time for us. So the price this year is $26,600.
I understand there's fewer and fewer firms to choose from.
There is, this is the third year of our audit contracts, so we'll be going out for bid next year. So, but they knew that we had received ARPA funds. This is just the first year that we'll have it in our audit.
There's a little firm in Lexington that does a lot of government work that we have been extremely satisfied with over at Handy Sanitary. So, and when they competed the last time in a competitive project, they beat the others by several $1,000s. So when we get ready to go out, if you remind me, I'll give you the name and contact information. You can get them added onto your bid list.
That sounds good, because that is a problem these days, is getting auditors to bid on your.
They do specialize in government work, so it's good.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the annual audit contract?
So moved.
Okay, got a motion?
Second that motion.
Got a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Thank you, Wendy. And we're gonna go ahead and roll into the financial report.
And they're just for your review, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have any questions about the financial report?
I think quite a few of these things come into maturity now. What happens with those? Do they just roll over?
So this is as of March 31st, just because I ended on the quarter. When those matured, I've already reinvested those. You'll see them on, I guess, the next, unless you want me to send it to you, I'll be happy to. Well, reinvested those funds.
Like our system development fees are ahead of schedule. Is that pretty standard, or is that?
We are very conservative in our budget for.
So that's part of it.
So, and they have come in, if we're not above budget on this one, we're already above budget, and the last several months have been very good, so.
That's a good thing.
Yep.
Any other questions for Wendy on the financial report? Hey, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
All right. Chad Thomas, have an update for us on CFP.
Yeah, we wanted to take an opportunity instead of doing the standard Rocky River expansion update to kind of take an opportunity to update you on everything, all the major projects we have going, which as you'll see, here's quite a bit within WSACC. So Thomas and myself are going to split this up here. We'll hit the first couple slides. We've got a slide on each project. We don't have to get to the end to ask questions. It's probably easier if through each project, if you have questions, we can go ahead and address those as we move forward. So first, so we've got, like I said, we've got 8 projects going on right now that we deem as pretty significant projects. These are all projects that in some form or fashion involved a bid or an RFQ or, or of substantial size. I'm going to be talking about the plant and collection system projects, and then Thomas is going to go over all the studies that we currently have going, kind of planning for the future. So phase 3 update. Well, we've talked about this project for several years now. It is really nice to ride around out there and actually see things kind of getting wrapped up. A lot of seeding going on, pavement going down, curb and guttering, bollards going in, finishing up items and kind of putting the finishing touches on things. Still a lot of work going on with pulling wires, terminating wires, and getting everything ready to kind of start up there. Some startup and training has been completed, like the new waste activated sludge pumps have been started up, and that training's been completed. And they have began excavation for the new septic receiving station there on the site. Most of y'all know we have a lot of septic trucks come to the plant. It's about $500,000 a year worth of septic we receive there, and probably 20-30 trucks on an average day come in there. So it's a pretty busy operation there. Next month, they're going to continue to work on the fine and coarse bubble diffusers in the aeration basin and EQ tanks, continue pulling wires, and continue electrical checkout and startup around the plant. So just continuing to finalize work and to move forward towards completion. Any questions on any of that? Phase 4. Phase 4 work has started hot and heavy. A lot of construction going on that when you're out there, it just looks like, it's just one construction project, but a lot of this is the Phase 4 work that's underway. Began doing a lot of work on some of our secondary clarifiers. We actually got into those clarifiers and started looking at the condition of those, the concrete and grout mainly that I'm talking about, and found those to be in a little worse condition than we hoped they would be in. Not structurally like they're going to fall apart type condition, but the fact that we're probably going to have to spend a little more money on each of those secondaries to get that concrete and grout back to where it needs to be on each clarifier. So that'll come out of contingency monies, and we're in good shape for that. But it's nothing we didn't expect. Something we just hoped we didn't find. They're continuing the gravity thickeners 3 and 4, installing those mechanisms and building the thickened sludge pump station for those gravity thickeners. And they have began the excavation and installing storage system at secondary clarifier distribution box 3. Projected just to keep moving on a lot of these items over the next month and hopefully start continuing to make good progress. Obviously, the weather this last week or so has been a challenge for them, but they are on schedule. Lower Cottle Creek parallel interceptor, that's moving along. We're getting very close. ARPA funds have created some challenges getting our contractor a notice to proceed. But we are holding the pre-construction conference May 22nd, so that's next week, and anticipate for them to start construction during the summer of this summer. So, that June, July timeframe, they should start getting out there and getting moving. Back Creek Parallel, as we just talked about that, we are actually, Black & Veatch was the original designer of that project. That project was complete, design was completed on that project. Right of ways were acquired, permitting was completed and everything. They're in the process now of renewing those existing permits as needed. And then originally it was designed as a 30-inch sewer, the portion we're looking to do. The updated master plan stated that they thought a 36 was better. We took a look at that and it was what, $500,000? Right. So it's a $7.5 million project. It was $500,000 to do the 36 instead of the 30. So we opted to do the 36, especially with mainly being funded by state money anyway, just to be safe with the way that area is growing. So they're going through the design and changing that to a 36-inch through some of that. We're expecting to bid that here, should go to bid hopefully by late summer, and hopefully can begin construction very early. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Thomas now. Any questions on any of those before I sit down?
All right, some updates on some studies and different reports we're working on. The master plan, we've been coming to you and talking about this for a while. We talked last time, I believe, about going through the peaking factors for flows out in our collection system. Those are heavily influential towards when future projects are projected to happen, how big the pipes will be, when plant expansions come, all that sort of thing. So we've been going through that carefully with Black & Veatch. They have some rather high peaking factors we thought from their master plan data. We have tons of historical flow data from our 31 permanent flow meters. So we're blessed with data there. So we were able to go through that together. We are currently working with them to transfer the 2 dashboards that we have not yet transferred. We've actually pulled these 2 over this week to our system. Got them all connected because when you move everything over, it likes to get disconnected, so we've got it reconnected on our side of things. We've provided some comments to them on that. Again, we've got a lot of flow data, so we want to make sure all of that's shown correctly, and all of that's shown very clearly in there as well. So they're working through those comments now. They're also working through some comments that we have recently delivered to them on the master plan report. So we delivered those, I believe, last week, and we're going to have a call this coming week to discuss some of those. As far as presentations to individual member jurisdiction boards and councils, I believe we've got one scheduled for late June with Concord. That will be our first one. Is that right, Chad? That will be our first one, and we look forward to scheduling others as well. And we'll be ready for that by that point, if not sooner. Any questions on master plan? Okay. So the wastewater treatment facilities plan and preliminary engineering report, this is kind of the next step. As we've talked about, moving towards conceptual design for wastewater treatment alternatives in the county overall, expansion here. So we've completed the kickoff meeting with Brown and Caldwell. We responded to their request for historical data. They had a lot of it from the Rocky River plant with the work they've done already, but had the remainder of that data, the Muddy Creek data, over to them. They did a biosolids ash market research study for us. So there's some potential value there, some potential folks for that. We're still continuing that. We're in the midst of that effort and evaluation right now. And they, Brown and Caldwell had also done some study on PFAS at wastewater treatment plants with incinerators. So we fit in that category, and incineration can be a good thing for PFAS, but that research is ongoing. So it was interesting to hear about that and consider some of those implications.
Any conclusions about all that yet?
So in very broad terms, from someone who is not a PFAS expert here in front of you, the incinerators, high temperatures tend to degrade those compounds and make them into the simpler compounds.
Right.
And as they shared with us, even if an incinerator is not completely removing PFAS, and some do apparently to very low levels, even if it isn't completely removing the PFAS, it is simplifying the compounds. And they said generally, as a general rule, the simpler PFAS compounds, simpler fluorine compounds were less toxic than the more complex ones. So overall, it looked like some decent news on PFAS relative to incinerators. Again, they're doing a lot of study on that, so it's still ongoing.
There doesn't appear to be any negatives.
That's
So
right.
It seems to be a benefit of if anything, but it's not the level of that benefit, yeah.
Okay. So as far as next steps, Brown and Caldwell is in the thick of analyzing historical data that we have provided. Like with flow data, we've got a ton of historical data from each of our plants. They are further developing wastewater treatment expansion alternatives to serve the county overall, and they are further considering the marketability and potential outlets for the biosolids ash. Any questions on this one? The inflow and infiltration study, again, we have completed the kickoff meeting for this study. Member jurisdiction staff were present and participated in that. HDR is working on this. They are working on their initial data analysis. So they have compiled the historical flow monitoring data that we have provided to them, again, from all those permanent flow meters out in our system. They have looked at historical significant rain events, and so they're trying to pair those two sets of data up with one another to see flow responses relative to those significant rain events. And they are using this, I believe it's an EPA tool in that third bullet there, to determine the flow characteristics. And out of that, we're going to have some I&I metrics. So we're going to have some measurements that we can use, again, working with HDR and member jurisdictions to figure out in which areas I&I seems to be elevated and to define what elevated is for I&I. There are some general guidelines out there in the industry. There is nothing kind of hard and fast. So HDR is going through that for our complete system, using those 31 permanent flow monitors. And they are going to come back and we'll discuss that data with the numbers in front of us, with member jurisdictions. So as next steps go, they're going to further analyze those historical flow peaks and the rainfall data. Again, determine those values for the I&I metrics. We're having a meeting next Friday with member jurisdictions and HDR to identify criteria for elevated I&I levels, consider what they found so far, and then they will from there further investigate subbasins and lines that meet those criteria. Any questions on that one? Okay. I believe we have two more. Odor evaluation and odor control study. We have had the kickoff meeting with Brown and Caldwell. Had an initial assessment. We rode through the site, rode around the Rocky River plant area. Brown and Caldwell, from that effort, has proposed sampling locations for different monitors. I know you can't really read it, but that's the spreadsheet tab right there is all the different things they'll measure, the different places they propose to measure them. So the next steps for that, they are going to obtain and install this odor monitoring equipment at each sampling location. This will be a temporary thing where we'll have, odor monitoring equipment at different manholes and at different parts of the Rocky River plant, that sort of thing. And they'll take measurements there. And then from there, with that data combined with climate and weather data, they'll develop the air dispersion model to project impacts surrounding the plant and to identify things that we might do to reduce those impacts.
So what kind of things are they testing or sampling for that produce odor?
Sure, so they are testing for some odor causing compounds directly. So hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, that sort of thing. They are also looking at some areas with differential pressure because, for example, down in a manhole, hydrogen sulfide can exist within that manhole, but it only becomes an odor causing compound to the surrounding air when it comes out of the manhole. So they're going to look at the differential pressure and see what is happening there, where the conditions are kind of pushing that air, towards the outside and, kind of spread to the surrounding area. They're going to look at head space. They've got these little floating chambers that analyze the air above the head space of our headworks and I think primary clarifiers as well. So they'll install those. These little floating chambers will be there. And they've also got there's a panel of professionals that analyze smells for a living. So there is criteria for the whole thing. It's the standard across the odor control industry. But they will collect bags of odorous air, and those folks will analyze that air. Wow. And they'll use that to determine a detection threshold, so where they can, what dilution they can smell that offensive odor.
Lovely job.
Well, I was gonna ask, what defines odor?
Well, it's
It sounds to me like there's professionals that.
yes, it all smells earthy to me. I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask about those things. But they do have specific criteria they use. There is training to do this. These folks do this at least part-time for a living, so.
Did you say it all smells earthy to you?
Yes, sir. After a certain time at a wastewater plant,
I hate that I just learned this because all those years of getting calls about how it smelled, I could have asked people, are you a professional?
You licensed.
You know now they exist.
Yes, such and now I know they exist.
Very well may have been, yes.
Thomas, obviously, we're in expansion and we'll be at 34 in a couple years. I mean, any issue with this model taking into account that full expansion, or we think we'll get the right results to understand even at expansion, we'll be in a good spot?
Sure, we are, some things largely won't change. For example, the aeration basins, I use the word earthy and I got to laugh here, but they do have kind of a general earthy, not very offensive smell. So those being open to the atmosphere shouldn't be an issue. We are going to do some things with Brown and Caldwell, like fill the EQ tank, even though we're not actively using it, so that they can check the smells and the levels around it, kind of as a preliminary check. So we're gonna do some things to simulate some of this equipment being online. Sure. That really isn't there. So phase 4 does include an odor control upgrade, already. We're taking that into account. And then, like I said, we're simulating some of these areas that, are there, and we can simulate it at this point.
Thank you.
And it was part of the benefit of having Brown and Caldwell involved in both projects, that they know exactly what's coming.
And I believe one more, yes. The incinerator differential pressure equipment study and PER. Still have not found a shorter name for this project. But we have completed the kickoff workshop with Hazen. Hazen and their subconsultant have analyzed their original technical memo, provided some comments and additional ideas in a workshop that we had a couple weeks ago, I believe. And they have provided preliminary recommendation of some alternatives for further consideration. It's a pretty short list of alternatives. It should be pretty straightforward overall, but they will be analyzing those options as we move forward. So we do have a process flow diagram for all this equipment. We've added some equipment since that was developed, so they are updating our process flow diagram. We are providing them some updated readings for that, for discussions with potential vendors, subconsultants, the state, etc. And then they are going to further consider alternatives with us from there. Any questions on this one? I think that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Thomas or Chad on any of this?
I have a question, I have a comment. This is very technical. Thank you for that. But the way that I'm hearing this also from an odor control perspective, I'm hearing more kind of to your point, the vocalization from a local's perspective. I think part of that, to be honest with you, is like anything that with the expansion, it's raised the awareness that it's even there. And this is just a total thought that I had, is in some way, once we get this finished, of having a one sheet that maybe goes online, you know, that has information, because I think that would be helpful to neighborhoods as well as residents, especially if they're selling their home, you know, to say, we're aware that it's there, because technically they have to disclose, you know, that they're within certain, so just kind of a, I know that's not engineering, but that's more communication, but I just think that it could be really useful, because I think we're just on a lot of people's radars because of the expansion. So I just kind of wanted to add that thought there.
Absolutely. And we will have graphics coming out of this that show, and we'll share these with all of you, you know, that share, that show projected areas of influence, and with the reduction measures that we're undertaking, you know, how those basically a cloud around the plant, how that shrinks down closer to.
That's great.
Other questions? Comments? All right. A lot of work going on. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will open it up for any public comments for the board. Seeing none or hearing none, we will move on. We need to have a motion to go into closed session under GS 143-318-11 A1, A3, and A6. Motion. Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Standing closed session. We've got several things, and then